Shalom, 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 shalom. Tonight, I'm going to be addressing the topic of leave Asherah alone. Leave Asherah alone. Now, a lot of y'all might not even know what I'm talking about. So let me bring you up to speed. The nation of Israel, the nation of Asherah, constantly and consistently kept mixing and falling into idolatry. One of the pagan deities, one of these demons that our people kept worshiping, was the female goddess Asherah. She was considered by the Canaanites to be the fertility and mother god. Some would, down the line, they would say she was the cohort or the wife of Baal, another pagan deity, probably the biggest that our people kept falling in line to worship. And that's what kept getting us punished, kept getting us into captivity, kept getting us into judgment, kept bringing on the wrath of the Most High. So most people would say, well, what they got to do with us today? Oh, that Asherah worship is still going on and is prevalent today. So let's get into it. So Asherah was the Canaanite goddess associated with fertility and motherhood, right? She is also depicted, they would make these wooden images, these wooden trees in reverence to worship her, okay? Her name literally means she who enriches. All right. She who enriches. Okay. They would make groves to her. This is another form of worship, something that the Most High told us to stay away from. All right. So this woman, well, not this woman, this fallen angel demon that the Canaanites were worshiping, and a couple other nations were worshiping, our people fell in line. Okay. And to worship this pagan deity, right? One of the forms of worship was child sacrifice. Child sacrifice. I need you to keep that in mind, because as we go through this, I'm going to show you how that is prevalent, how that is relevant to today. Another way to worship her was through sexual immorality. Okay. Temple prostitution was a daily part of their religious practices, right? But it don't just stop there. Every form of wicked, every form of perversion, every form of sexual morality you can think of was part of their religious ceremonies. Homosexuality, bestiality, incest. This is where, I don't want to jump too far ahead. Let me stay where I'm at. Every form of perversion was a form of worship to this deity. And our people, wanting to fulfill every carnal pleasure, wind up rolling with this. Okay, let's get into it. 2 Kings chapter 21 verse 7. Just going to touch on a verse. 2 Kings chapter 21 verse 7. And it says, and this is about King Manasseh, who was the son of Hezekiah, a righteous king. Well, Manasseh took over the kingdom at around like 12 years old, and he reigned for 55 years, full of nothing but wickedness. But we're going to key in on 2 Kings chapter 21, verse 7. And it says, he even set a carved image of Asherah that he had made in the house of which Yahuwah has said to David and Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever. So this wicked king literally starts setting up these Asherah poles, right? This pagan wicked deity in the house of the Most High. Let me show y'all something. Let me show y'all what these wicked things look like. Let's get a closer look. Watch this. Look at this. Hopefully y'all can see that. All right, let's see if y'all can see that. Let's see if y'all can see this one. Where they even got it shaped in the image of a female with a bosom out. Usually it would be mounted like the first half. The top half would be in the shape of a female. Let me give you one more. Let's see if we can look at this. Look at these. Look at these. These were erected all over the place Just pure evil wickedness. Pure evil wickedness. So let's roll. It says he set these things up in the house of the Most High. That's crazy. But most people would say, well, what that got to do with us? Well, let's just jump to it. We got to put down this Asherah worship. All right. Asherah worship was associated with promiscuity, whoredom, right? Illicit sexual practices. This would lead to your pornography. This would lead to your pedophilia. This would lead to your homosexuality. This would lead to your gang bangs. This would lead to your glory holes, your bukakis, all that perversion and wicked stuff. We just going there. This is Asherah worship. Now, most of us, as we were growing up, don't even realize we've been immersed in this through the music, which promotes sexual morality, sexual promiscuity, Asherah worship. The movies, Asherah worship. The fashion industry, right? Where once our women to dress where they're barely not dressed. That's Asherah worship. Oh yeah. We going there. Let me roll with Exodus chapter 34. Exodus chapter 34. The title of this is Stop the Asherah worship. It's time for us to put it down and to pull down these strongholds that this wicked devil done planted in us, planted in our societies, planted within our nation, and we didn't even realize it. All right. And it's been going on and it's been happening for a long time. Let's roll to Exodus chapter 34, verse 13. Exodus 34. We're going to get to 13. Leave that Asherah worship alone. And it says, Exodus 34:13, but you shall destroy their altars, break their sacred pillars, and cut down their wooden images. And those wooden images was those Asherah poles, right? Now this you got a picture. Let's just paint a picture. You got a temple, right? You got these priests, quote unquote prophets, and they're going in with their garbs on. And you got the people following. You got the music playing. And you got the women dressed and they barely dressed, tight everything. Stuff is hanging out. And the men, they just following along. Right? And they associate worshiping this deity with prosperity as well. All right? And they going in and they say, we about to commence the service. And then they call a young lady up. They call another young lady up and they start intermingling. They call a man up. He start getting in the midst. And everybody in the audience is now looking in awe like, wait a minute, what's going on? Oh, this is how they worship. Do y'all want to worship? They say, yeah. Yeah. Break out the drinks. Crank up the music. Get them drums going. All right. That's it. That's Asherah worship. Right? We didn't know that these wicked people who started the porn industry was into Asherah worship. We didn't know all our lives watching this rap video or this rock and roll video or this music video or that movie. We didn't know. Every time you went to that dollar party, that strip club, that bar, right? That lounge, we didn't know we was participating in Asherah worship. Yeah, that unhealthy sexual immorality. Asherah worship turns regular, normal people into sex addicts. That's what Asherah worship does. Has you chasing a nut instead of chasing holiness. Straight up. Straight up. Has you chasing self-gratification instead of the glory of the Most High. Asherah worship. Let's look at this. 1 Kings. Let's roll to 1 Kings chapter 16. Verse 33. And this is just one part of this, right? I wanted to touch on it real quick as like an introduction. 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 33. Let's look at this. And Ahab made a wooden image. That wooden image is those Asherah poles. And Ahab did more to provoke Yahuwah, the allure of Israel, to anger than all of the kings of Israel who were before him. Why? Because he not only erected these wicked Asherah poles, he welcomed their prophets. Him and his wicked wife Jezebel. They had prophets of Baal, which we'll touch on that. And he had prophets of Asherah, right? And it's not a coincidence that there's a spirit that comes with the Asherah as well, right? They call this divine femininity. Divine femininity. This is the spirit behind your feminist movement. This is the spirit that's behind we don't need a man. This is the spirit where men are disposable, but not just in the women, right? Because it affects the men too. It make men become whoremongers. It make men do, it's like you got this unsatiable appetite. It's never ending. And you'll do anything to satisfy it. You start crossing line after line and boundary after boundary. But Asherah worship don't know no limits. No, there's no shame in Asherah worship. And if you look nowadays, shame has left the door. But shame was the one thing that might make a person repent and say, no, I don't want people to look at me like that. Oh, no, but that's happening nowadays. And there's no shame. Matter of fact, you get in trouble if you shame somebody. Yeah. But we need to, what they call it, cancel culture. We need to cancel this Asherah worship. Oh, but let me show you something else. Let me bring you to speed real quick. We're going to look back at one of them images real quick. I just want to show y'all something, how deep this Asherah worship go. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. All right. You see that? Yeah. Guess what? Guess what? Oh, that Asherah worship is linked to the Christmas tree as well. Oh, yeah. Because some people would say, oh, no, I don't do that. And I'm married. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, we got the Christmas tree in there. Yeah, that's that Asherah worship. You erected this tree, right? What do you think Jeremiah was talking about? Jeremiah 10. It was talking about y'all bring in the tree, y'all fasten it, y'all decorate it. Oh, yeah, that's the same way you decorate a woman. With the jewelry and all that, to gather that attention, to seduce for seduction. Oh, yeah, that's Asherah worship. We was born and bred in it. Oh, but another thing for Asherah worship is child sacrifice. Uh-oh. Well, what that got to do with us today? What you think the spirit of abortion clinics is? What you think the spirit behind Plan B is? Right? This, we didn't know that we were immersed in this. But there's a demonic force behind this. But now that we know, right? Once you know your enemy, you can fight your enemy. And today is the day we start saying no more Asherah worship. Y'all can have the porn. Y'all can have the sexual promiscuity. You can have that. If that ain't my wife, or if that's not your husband's sister, we don't want it. We don't want to touch it. Y'all can keep them rap songs, them rock and roll songs, them R&B songs, them videos. Y'all can keep that. Them movies with all the explicitness, them shows. Y'all can keep that. You can keep your commercials. You can keep that. You keep your TikTok, your Facebook, and all that other stuff that keep promoting these algorithms that's pushing out this sexual morality. Y'all can keep that. We want purity. Purity is the way to break the spirit of Asherah. Righteousness is the key. So we got to fight, right? Because I could teach this. Temptation gonna be there. Oh yeah, that Asherah spirit waiting for me, just like it's waiting for you. Yeah, right. But I ain't built to break. We ain't built to break. You ain't built to break. All right. In the strength of the Most High Yahuwah, through His Son Yahusha, we get filled up with His Ruach Hakodesh, His Holy Spirit, which empowers us to overcome, break down these strongholds, these walls, and these barriers of this Asherah worship. So let's put it to bed, y'all. Let's put it to bed. One more. Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6. Let me get there. Judges chapter 6, verse 30. And it says, then the men of the city said to Joash, bring out your son, that he may die. Because he has, what he do? Torn down the altar of Baal, because he has cut down the wooden image, which is the wooden image of Asherah that was beside it. That was Gideon, y'all. Gideon cut it down. So we got to take on the mindset of Gideon. We don't play with it. We don't dance around it. We cut the Asherah poles down. Spiritually, we got to cut them down. Mentally, we got to cut them down. That sexual morality is a cancer, and we got to cut it down. I love y'all. Shalom, shalom.